In today's macro photography tutorial, we're shooting this lovely little basket of dried out flowers. This basket's been sat on my windowsill drying out for quite some time now, and there's lots of really interesting colors and textures to capture in macro. Stick around and I'll get started in just a sec. Hi guys, I'm Ben from Adaptalux and welcome back to another macro photography tutorial. We will be getting on to shooting our flowers in just a moment, but unlike our normal macro tutorials, I'd like to actually start off today by telling you about the lighting that we're using. We've got the Adaptalux Studio, which is a miniature lighting studio perfect for shooting small subjects like this. It consists of the control pod with several ports in the front into which you can insert flexible lighting arms. Now these are LED lighting arms and we've got several colors, but we've also got flash and ultraviolet lighting arms. Now the reason I'm telling you about this is because as this video goes out, we're actually at the NEC in Birmingham for the photography show. We're running our stand with demos just like this one that you can come and see live. So if you're at the photography show, make sure to head by our stand and come and chat to myself and Sam. In the meantime, let's take a look at our dried flowers. Now these have been sat on my windowsill for quite a while, so they are very dry, very crispy and quite fragile as well. I'm not going to be moving them around all too much. I'm going to try and get my lighting into this bunch and find some interesting shots in here without disturbing this nice arrangement, or perhaps it was a nicer arrangement when they were still alive, but for now we're going to be shooting them dry, which I think is going to give us some unique textures and some interesting angles on these flowers, especially when we get our lighting arms inside and behind all of these little leaves and things like that. Now the first thing I'm going to do is set up on a tripod. I don't want to be holding my camera or going freehand just yet, and then we can set our lighting up as well. I've sat my camera on a focus stacking rail, which you'll be able to see here between the camera and the tripod, but I'm not entirely sure that we're going to need focus stacking today or even want it. I think these flowers are going to lend themselves to some nice out of focus foregrounds and backgrounds with a bit of soft focus throughout, just to give them a little bit more of an ethereal, pleasant look about them. Something that we definitely do need though is our lighting, which we mentioned is going to be the Adaptalux Studio. Now I'm just going to attach it to one of these little mini tripods using the screw thread at the back of the pod, and that will give me a little bit of elevation, or certainly options for elevation. As I move my lighting around, I can choose how high I want it to come in, but I'm also going to add a lighting arm just to bring in a little bit of light onto my rose. Now that looks pretty harsh, I think, so I'm also going to add a diffuser. This is going to soften that light really nicely and hopefully make our rose look a little bit softer and more pleasant. Now I'm also going to bring in another white lighting arm for that same reason. I'm going to diffuse that one as well, and then two directions of white lighting should give me a nice soft look and even lighting with not too many shadows and no harsh specular highlights. So from my initial few shots, I can see that there is a lot going on with these flowers. It's less about capturing an individual flower and more about trying to harness the chaos that this bunch of flowers has actually become. There is so much going on with lots of subtle colors like the yellows in here, the greens, there's pinks and purples on the ends of these little flowers just here. We've got the whites of this, I think this is Gypsophilia in here, and there's the odd really interesting specimen hiding away as well. So this is going to be really interesting for a sort of abstract look at flowers, getting our lens right in here and capturing all of these different types of flowers in close proximity, all looking quite decayed and old, I think is going to make for some really interesting photographs. Of course, with most macro subjects, the challenge is not necessarily your composition, finding what you want to photograph, but actually getting light into that area and making that light look really pleasant. Now, with the Adaptalux Studio, we obviously have these flexible lights that are really easy to position exactly where we need them, and really quickly as well. So if you find a new shot that you want to experiment with, it's as simple as placing a lighting arm exactly where you need it to be, adding a diffuser which is just magnetically attached, and then you can start shooting. You can also get lots of different variations on the same shot. So maybe you set your composition up and you really like the way it looks, but you're not quite sure about the lighting. Well, you can play around with your lighting, move it to different areas, and of course try different effects as well. We have color filters and we have colored lighting arms. So these flowers are looking a little bit desaturated actually, because of the dried out nature of them. They've lost a little bit of their color. But if you wanted to add a little bit of color back in, it's as simple as adding a color filter or a colored lighting arm. Now you can still diffuse all of this as well, so you don't have to have that really harsh colored light, and you can use it very subtly as well by simply lowering the brightness of your colored lighting arms and still using the white lighting arms to get your main light. Now that's particularly easy with the new Pod 3 with its rotary dial on the top. It's as simple as just pressing the dial and rotating it to get the brightness that you want. You can see as I've been talking, I've changed my lights completely from 2 white diffused lighting arms to a red lighting arm that's now on about 10% power. Now I can hear some of you sat there thinking, well, I really only use white light. Why would I want some colored lighting arms? What is that actually going to do for my images? And well, you can see here that we've got a red lighting arm here diffused and a white lighting arm. We're actually looking at this Gypsophilia just here, and the background was looking pretty plain, pretty dull, but the introduction of a little bit of red light has actually brought that out in the background, but not on the subject itself. So that white Gypsophilia is still white because we've got it lit with this white lighting arm here, but then the background has just got a little touch of extra red light picking up on the purples of the flowers behind, and adding a little bit of extra interest into the background. Having said that, bright, vivid colors from light is not everybody's cup of tea. Perhaps you want to go for a more natural look, and of course you can do that with just a couple of white lighting arms, and still have that ability to bring in flexible multi-directional light into a very complex scenario like this one is. I'm going to keep shooting for just a little bit longer, but I'm really enjoying shooting these dried flowers. I definitely recommend that you dry out a bunch for yourself, and I would recommend having them all different types of flowers in a basket or a bunch like this, so that you can make the most of that absolute chaos that is created when organic subjects intermingle and interact. One of the troubles that I've been having with this chaotic mess of a bunch of flowers is actually trying to separate the foreground and background. For instance, if I wanted to focus on one of these little flowers down here at the front, it's really easy to do that and find an interesting composition, but then the background might be a little bit distracting from what you want the viewer to actually look at. Yes, pinpoint focus on the thing that you're interested in is a good way to draw the eye, but also if you've got a lot of different colors and highlights and shadows going on in the background, it can really distract from that. That's where our lighting comes in to light the foreground and the background separately. Being able to get different amounts of light, perhaps even different colors of light, into different areas of our flowers really gives the foreground and background some separation. Now, yes, I realize I've been talking about our lighting a lot more than our subject in today's video, but that's because the subject itself is fairly self-explanatory, and it is really easy to get some really nice photos from a big hodgepodge of flowers like this. But the lighting itself is quite difficult to achieve if you don't have that flexibility to get the light into those difficult places. I'll remind you one last time that if you're in Birmingham, we are at the photography show at the NEC right now, so you can come and play with all of this lighting, take a look for yourself, and maybe even go home with some. I'd like to know what you thought to my dried flowers idea and the photographs that I got today. Let me know down in the comments. Let me know if you're coming to the photography show, and give the video a like if you enjoyed it. For now, that is all that I've got time for. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.